back to Evening Edition. Tonight, we're going to dig up some Key West dirt with muck raking journalist Ted Lund of the Above the Fold Substack. Hey, Ted, thanks for joining us on US 1 Radio.
Well, Nick, it's always a pleasure to be on. Appreciate you having me.
So you've been a Key West journalist at most of the different media outlets in Key West, and now you've got your own Substack page called Above the Fold. Can you tell us a little about Substack and what's different about being an independent journalist?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because for most of my life, I've written for other people for not very much money. So now I'm having the opportunity to cover things that interest me for not a whole lot of money. But it does let me focus on, some stories that I think are relevant and of interest to the community. It's stuff that doesn't normally get the light of day in some of the other media outlets. And one is a perfect example. Earlier this week, just looking through the city agendas for some of the meetings, I came across the Shrimp Boat Sound proposals that came up on Wednesday night during the Bite Board meeting. And it was quite an interesting evening.
Right. Now, you're talking Shrimp Boat Sound. That's Jimmy Buffett's studio between Schooner Wharf and the Conch Farm on Lazy Way Lane, now covered with stickers. Can you tell us what's going on with Jimmy's studio?
Well, yeah. Basically, the bottom line is that after Buffett died, his estate basically vacated the premises. They took most of the recording, if not all of the recording equipment out. But there was an interest by a gentleman by the name of Rick Bernson. The city had put out requests for letters of interest on that building, which also historically, I believe that it was an ice house at one point, but it was also the headquarters for Singleton Fisheries and Booty Singleton, who ran one of the largest commercial fishing companies in the world there. There was some confusion, and it turns out nobody was really at fault. Mr. Bernson's group wasn't at fault. The Spotswood companies weren't at fault. They just were, I guess, responding to mixed signals, if you will. The city advertised in a very, very minor way for letters of interest, and that's what Mr. Bernson did, representing former JB collaborators like Mac McAnally, Zach Brown, Kenny Chesney, as well as family members like Lucy and Savannah Buffett that wanted to see it kind of restored to its former glory, somewhat like Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals or Capricorn in Macon, Georgia. So they did what they were supposed to do. They came up with a letter of intent and let the city know what was happening. And then Spotswood companies actually did what they were supposed to do under the public-private partnership, or known as P3, under city code. And they went ahead and came up with a proposal. They were going to make it a margarita-themed bar right there. The building does need quite a bit of renovation, but they also included a $25,000 check with their proposal. Now, the issue is, again, Spotswood companies didn't do anything wrong. Neither did the Bernsons, but the Bite Board seemed to be confused about the whole thing. They were willing to move forward and negotiate a lease, and they don't really even have that power. All they can do is go ahead and recommend a course of action. And what we're going to see, I think, that has been postponed until the next meeting in December. And I know that there are supposed to be some talks going on between the Bernson group and the Spotswood group to see if they can't come to some sort of a mutual agreement and possibly partner on that facility. So it's quite interesting. I really appreciated them calling me out by name and blaming me for the giant letter writing campaign.
Right. I was going to say at the meeting, some of the Bite Board commissioners complained of copy-pasted emails, and it was alleged that you, Ted Lund, coordinated the campaign for one of the groups. How is it to be a part of your own story?
It's, I really appreciate it. It's just being called out by the Key West Citizen. It's, I know that story got 15,000 hits, and I saw more triple-digit subscriptions. So Works out for me.
Okay, so that issue should be up at the next meeting of the Bite Management Board, which you mentioned in December. And then we've got some news about the future of Bayview Park. What's going on there?
Well, they're finally trying to come to terms with a master plan on that. I actually had something go up this morning about that, about the agenda. The problem is there's not really a master plan included in this. They seem to be making ad hoc additions to it. I know there's another bathroom that they added in, which is part of a requirement they have to have for a splash pad that they put in. Then there's a fitness facility that was just added. And nobody in the neighborhood, that actually lives there that should have some input on what's going on in the park knows where any of those came from. So it just seems like the Parks and Rec Board isn't really including stakeholders in that decision making and trying to come up with a cohesive vision moving forward. There was a big hullabaloo earlier this year about the installation of the fake turf at the softball field there. So Bayview's been in the headlines here most recently with the powerboat races, but they were fortunate enough not to need to overflow there. So yeah, it just seems like some of these boards are in disarray, and it doesn't seem like they're getting very good legal representation or counsel from within the city. That's no knock on Mayanne Downs, who's now the new acting city attorney, but it just doesn't seem like any of the in-house assistant counsels doing a very good job.
Okay, well, thanks for digging up all the Key West dirt, Ted, and thanks for chatting with us this afternoon. Very
good, Nick. I appreciate it. Anytime, and take a look at Ted Lund 1 at Substack.com. We'll have another follow-up on the Shrimbo Sound issue. And just here, as we're going on the air, I've got a story running about the looting of a barge in the Bahamas that ran aground, which sounds a lot like the 1800s in Key West.
That was journalist Ted Lund of the Above the Fold Substack page, telling us about the proposals for Jimmy Buffett's recording studio, Shrimp Boat Sound, and what the future of Bayview Park might look like. And check in with his Substack to hear about the looting of a barge in the Bahamas.